Ready? Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that everyone is present and we do have a quorum. I'd like to start with an opening prayer. Lord, please look down upon us, servants of the citizens of Shoshoni, and help guide us in our decision making. I'd like to please bless all of our city employees who have done just an excellent job in serving the community. Please look upon the town with your blessings. In God's name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Can I approval of the agenda? So moved.
Second.
Then motion to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Do we have any additions? Excuse me. I was gonna put that in.
You need to add her to the agenda.
It should
Oh,
come under agenda.
I move we amend the agenda to add executive session for litigation
And permits.
and
We
permit.
have a permit.
Oh,
That
For rabbit or
Chickens.
chickens.
that wouldn't go into executive
No.
session.
But
Oh, okay, yeah,
so we're
okay.
amending this,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so executive, you wanted executive session. Where would we move that to, Councilman?
Number 17. After
Number
police
K,
report.
executive session. Okay, very good. Any other additions?
did we need to add her to the permits? On number 13?
Do we have a permit filled out?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And where would you want to put that?
Probably under permits, number 13.
Oh, there we go. You bet. Under permits, number 13, correct. Pass that down. So it's been any other additions? If none being, then move to approve the agenda with two additions. One, an executive session, number 17, and one is a permit for chickens, number 13.
Yes.
Do I have a,
Make a motion.
to approve it as presented?
Mhm.
Second? Councilman.
Second.
Second. Councilman Stetler, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Motion passed, all the affirmative.
I got paper.
Yeah, there's other stuff.
Oh, okay. Any communication from citizens? Do we have anybody online, chief?
It's the Tim Nichols with the Wind River Transit Authority. I believe they're on the agenda.
They're on the agenda. Okay, very good. Consent agenda. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Been moved by Councilman Zent to approve the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been seconded by Councilman Hartke. Any further discussion?
I had a question, but I don't remember what it was. It was,
Councilman Stetler. Something
I'm
to
s-
do with bills?
yeah, it was, oh, check number, whatever that is. 424 225 something for Sunnyside for repair frozen flush. I'm just curious.
What was, who was the check
Oh.
made out to?
It's check number 22564.
I don't have that in front of me.
That was the sewer lagoon.
Repair flow frozen.
Yeah, that was the sewer lagoon and the, I guess flush out. whatever in the line.
Oh, I just it caught me out off. I was like,
Yeah, I wish Mike Quiver was here to explain that
Uh,
one, because he could explain better exactly what it was for.
no, it's it just with getting something for frozen in April. It's
Yeah,
But I don't know when the service was
I think they had
provided.
trouble with it, cause he had brought it up before about it. They were having trouble with it.
all right,
had to do with our dowsing system and. heating
Right,
and
but it was
that.
for the lagoon and all that. That's
Yeah.
what that was my only question.
Only reason I can tell you that for certain is because the GL account.
That makes sense. I was curious. It
Yep.
struck me as odd being in there. It just didn't match up, but that makes sense.
But sometimes they do the work and bill whenever.
Bill 30
Yeah,
days or whatever, and there's another 2 weeks for
Yeah.
it till we get it. Yeah, understood. I just
good question though. Good question. We don't understand, we should ask. Any other questions? None. B and all in favor of the approving the consent agenda? Say aye.
I
Aye, so the same. Motion passed all in affirmative. We go down to. Permits, number 13.
Can you come up here and say your name? Do I have to go up there? Yes.
Can I just sit here?
You'll be
You gotta
okay.
go. Please state your name and speak into the microphone here, so people online and can hear you and
Okay. My
it
name,
doesn't bite.
okay, my name's Ashley Hadnam and I was wanting a permit for, my chickens.
How many chickens?
Oh, I'm not really sure. I didn't count them as I was unloading them. Under 25,
You've read the ordinance?
yes,
And you'll comply with the ordinance.
yes.
move we approve the permit.
I have other questions. Have you talked to your neighbors about it?
I did. got
They're
the
all
paper.
signed, Bob.
Okay, well, see, I haven't seen this.
Yeah, you're fine. No, you're fine. No,
apologize. That's what I
Okay,
wanted.
that was my question.
yeah, no, I've already talked to my neighbors, the ones that would answer the door.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I have not seen it, so.
Not a problem.
Yes,
I'll second it.
been moved by Councilman or second by Councilman Hartke that we approve the permit for chickens for Ashley
Haddenham.
Haddenham. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye, pose the same. Motion passed, all in affirmative, thank you.
So when do I pay? I was supposed to pay some money, wasn't I?
Did that, you weren't supposed to put that in the public. No, I'm joking. I'm joking,
$5 fee you can pay the deputy clerk in the time.
right,
Anytime.
That's $25.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks a lot.
okay, that's it.
That's
That's it.
all it is.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please
When
do.
is there gonna be some burn days?
Okay, the burn days are officially started April 1st or April today.
Took
We
a
just,
couple days till I got approved, but as of today, you can burn.
as of today, you can burn.
Now,
We,
you're-
huh?
For how long?
June, is it June 30th?
35 minutes.
35 minutes? I
Yeah.
like that answer.
It's to June 1st. You can burn from 9 AM to 8 PM.
Super, okay, thank you.
Starting, yeah, till June 1st.
Okay,
Yep, very good. Good question, though. That was on our
All right, so I'm good.
things to report. You bet, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Be sure to come in and pay the clerk though.
Oh, I will.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
no, I'll hear.
Have a good day, young lady. Unfinished business, we have WRTA, I believe we have Tim Nichols online. And we also got Kevin. Shoshoni
Correct.
on the line, they're wanting to talk half-cent. Economic development tax. Correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Your honor, members of the council, like the mayor mentioned, my name's Kevin Kershistnik. I'm with the Ford Fremont County PAC, also with Idea Inc. in Riverton. And so today, I think in your packets, you have the MOU in front of you. It's a revised MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, by Fremont County Association of Governments.
It's been on my three agendas and I think it may have gotten skipped on this agenda.
Did it? Okay, I do have some copies.
I have copies of
These all- Oh, do you? Okay.
I got four here.
You still have your
No,
from prior. I think I'll make copies.
I'll share with Bob.
One of the reasons they're presenting this is this. We. FCAG has supported changing the MOU. To how the money is dispersed, it's still basically the same. Economic development, but there's gonna be. They're suggesting that more funding is gonna go partially to the. Ambulance, which we need, county, and some more. I'll let Kevin
Explain it to you. Okay.
explain, he'll do much better than I can.
I'll do my best, sir. What you have in front of you, like the mayor said, is a modified memorandum of understanding. And so if I take you back to 2019, that's when we first had it on the ballot. We did it in the primary election. The ballot verbiage will remain the same. So the electorate's going to vote for the exact same thing, which basically states that the monies will be used for economic development purposes, which is defined as retaining or increasing jobs or a net inflow of cash into the community. Okay, so that's going to be the same ballot verbiage. The breakdown on that is the first 30% goes to transportation and the next 70% goes to projects of the municipality and county's choosing. Okay, so that'll be exactly the same. Then after that passed, Fremont County Association of Governments passed an MOU and a memorandum of understanding that said, we want a little more clarification as to how these funds are going to be spent. And so that's what was put forth. All the elected bodies approved that at that time. That's what's in effect today. We've discussed that since the last 3.5 years, you know, what's transpired, the good things, the bad things, what should be changed, what should be modified. So what you have in front of you is the modified memorandum of understanding that takes into account those proposed changes. And the easiest way to see that is on page 5. You'll see a chart. Yeah, there you go. Yep. And the first 30%, so 20 for air, commercial air transportation, 10% for ground is the same. Then the 70%, again, that was 100% for projects of the municipality or county's choosing. Fremont County Association of Governments had multiple discussions. We looked at that and said, what we'd like to do is to change this allocation on that 70%. The ones that you'll see in yellow, if you have it in color, if not, it'll just be the grade section, 33% to 29%. Those are the percent of the 70. So what we're talking about is taking roughly a third of that 70%, using that for commercial air transportation. That's the minimum revenue guarantee for air service. And the reason for this increase is when we first proposed the 20%, that was when air service was, it cost about this amount. We've seen inflationary increases each year due to the block hour changes. And we've also seen a lot of airports across the US lose service completely. So we're not really in the driver's seat there. SkyWest and United come to us and say, this is what it's going to cost for air service. We then say, this is how much we can charge for airfares, which is what we get in revenue. That difference there is called the minimum revenue guarantee that we have to pay in order to retain that air service. Okay. We were at 2 flights a day, and then we've dropped to 1. I have some graphs. We can get into details if we need to, but that's taking that into account. Now, I think that we're doing a pretty good job controlling costs the best we can. The state, Wyoming Department of Transportation, Wyoming Aeronautics, actually negotiates the deal with SkyWest. They do that for 4 airports through a capacity purchase agreement. That's Riverton, Sheridan, Gillette, and Rock Springs. And so I started doing some digging, and I'm saying, man, this is getting more and more expensive each year. What can we do to control this? So we looked at the federal program, which is called Essential Air Service. That's what Worland have. If you remember back in the day, they stop here and they go to Worland through Essential Air Service. Our cost per annum is 70% of what the average federal program is. So the state's doing a pretty good job. It's just the issue with the cost of commercial air service for rural areas and rural airports like Central Wyoming Regional Airport. So that's why we had said we need additional funds so we can get that second flight back. We're working as hard as we can. So we have 2 flights a day instead of just the one that comes in early morning or leaves early morning and comes in at late at night. So that's what the commercial air service change is. The ground transportation is to increase the bus service, and Tim can probably elaborate if he's online here, but that would pick up additional routes in and out of Shoshoni, going through Riverton, Lander, and around the county. That's what's proposed there. The ambulance service, as the mayor said, started to look at that, and none of us want to use the ambulance. We hope we never have to, but if one of us or our loved ones have a critical medical situation, you want them to be there and be able to transport you to the hospital, save your life or your loved ones. So we talked to the county on that. Right now, their bill is about 1.8 million per annum is what they're spending for commercial air or for ambulance service. So we'd be paying roughly 40% of that through the tax. They'd still be paying the 60% through their general fund, and it would be administered through the county. But we think that that's a critical service, something that we need for the residents of Fremont County. We need to ensure that that's in place. And this is one of the ways of doing that. The remaining 29% you see there, which is on the next line, 20% of the total, would still be available for, in this case, Shoshoni's projects of your choosing. If you look in the MOU, the other thing we did, because I know that money is relatively, well, it's low. All right, it's about 10,000 per annum. And so if you have larger projects, there was some additional verbiage that we put in there, and that's in Article 2, Section 3.4. And it states in there that collaboration with other municipalities or the county for joint projects or programs that benefit the greater Fremont County area. Those are encouraged, and the collaboration has to still align with, again, creating jobs or net inflow of cash. So if you have a big projects coming up, you don't think you have enough funds to cover that, you could go to the county, you could go to Riverton and ask for support in that process. So we feel there's still mechanisms in there to still cover everything that we need for the county. But those are the fundamental changes from what we had at the last MOU to this one. So appreciate your consideration of that and stand for any questions.
Previously, years ago, the county contributed to the airport fund and they've dropped that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you approached the county for funds for the airport?
Yes. So actually, if you go way back, the county, Lander, Riverton used to all pay for the operations of the airport and the MRG, this minimum revenue guarantee. The operations side, I'm thinking 10 years plus now, that was taken on by Riverton. So all the operational costs of the airport, which is roughly $650,000 per annum, is borne by or bared by the city of Riverton. Okay, so that's the operational side. The MRG portion, it started out, if you remember, when we had Great Lakes, some people call it great mistakes, right? When we had problems and you just couldn't get flights reliably into or out of Riverton or in Fremont County. So we looked at that and we said, okay, how can we pay for this service? And the airports and airlines, excuse me, they had said it's a minimum revenue guarantee for small airports. So you have to pay this amount. So back in about 2015, 16, we said, all right, we need to come up with the funds to cover this. So we went to the county, to Lander, and to Riverton, and each one of those entities paid $200,000 per annum for like a 2-year period. The third year, they started to scale back and said, we don't have it in our general fund. We don't have it in our budget. We can't do this. So the last year, Riverton said they would put up 200,000. Lander said they'd put up 100,000 of the 200 because they had budget restrictions, and the county said they were going to pay 0. So at that point, we had already started this, and we're like, we need to get something in place to ensure we have commercial air service, absolutely critical for economic development. And so that's the evolution of what happened. So the funding from those entities started to drop. At the same time, luckily, we had put this into place, and it started to ramp up from the sales tax perspective.
Based upon that history, I'm worried about what happens when the county says, hey, we're gonna skip out on the ambulance part.
Yeah, and I can't speak for the
Yeah,
county,
that's-
you know.
that's my fear.
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
And then, for the town itself will say, hey, you're not gonna get any of this economic development money. I mean, because you're taking another. I mean, before we had, how many we had last year, but, compared to, it's gonna be chopped and chopped and chopped. That's my fear.
The allocation for the municipalities.
Yes.
Right. And some of those things are out of our control. Like I say, with the air service, it's a 3 variable equation. We
I
can control
understand
one, right? Now for the ambulance service, there's a couple of options that you can look at. And you've probably read a lot of it about like what the state's looking to do. They have
Ambulance
some
districts.
Yep, ambulance districts. They're looking at providing something through the state. They're also looking at, could be privately serviced as well. So the hospitals like Cody, they actually provide the ambulance service for that area. So there's other options out there. We haven't delved into that deeply at this point. I believe the county has. And so we're putting together a 1-page infographic that says, this is what's going on with the ambulance service. This is why it's critical. This is what the funding looks like, and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's critical. I'm just
Mhm.
worried about down the road.
Right.
I'm just curious, still trying to get this up and running, but we have an ambulance here in Shoshoni. Can we use that money for our ambulance? Or does it have to go to the county?
Great question. And I don't think it's been defined at this point, right? It says that yeah, it says it'd be for ambulance service. So, my take on it, that's just my opinion, right? Is that, yeah, that would be eligible. It's analogous to ground transportation, right? So it states in there that this 10% goes to ground transportation, which doesn't necessarily mean 100% is going to WRTA, Wind River Transit Authority. It can go to the senior bus. And up in Du Bois, right? They said, we want monies for our services up here. And what they've actually done, FCAG voted, and Mayor, you can elaborate on that, to actually have those monies stay in Du Bois so they could use them as they see fit for ground transportation.
Be similar, the ambulance would be similar since we have our ambulance stuff. Du Bois wasn't getting served by Wind River Transit, and
Or Shoshoni.
or Shoshoni. They actually need the senior center. So they needed some help with their ambulance, and that would be one way they could fund that and keep the service. So senior center provides that service for them. I believe there's some accounting that's involved with everything else that's going to be spent.
So we could use the ground transportation for the senior center here.
I saw a notice where
We could make an application.
It's eligible.
cost, I think, $20
Mhm.
for a ride to Riverton.
Yeah.
Yep, you apply for it through,
Right.
For the senior center.
What,
You
our
could
senior
apply
center charges $20?
I think so.
Yeah.
On a Saturday or something. I just saw the notice in the bank.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I mean,
They just got
That's-
a new bus. They just got a new,
well, I'm sure that they're only charging what they have to,
sure.
but I was saying. So is my math wrong, or subsidizing the airline of 2.3 million is what's estimated?
1.8 is what my math shows. So if you look at the full county allocation on that line,
53% of is what you're proposing. Right?
No, the 23%, that's 23% of the 70%.
the 33% you see is of the 70,
Okay.
23% of the total. So it'd be 23 plus the 43% of the total allocation.
Right, okay, yeah.
Additional air commercial service 33 and air commercial service at 20.
So the 33% that's shown in that highlighted section, that's of the 70%.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So of the total distribution, it's 23%
Yeah.
rounded. Some are
That's
truncated, some are rounded.
33%.
But, mhm.
I didn't have the color on my.
Oh.
We don't have.
Yeah.
color either.
So the senior center can apply, do they apply to FCAG, do they apply to the town, and then we just convert the money to the senior center to apply?
So the way the MOU reads today is that these funds for the ground transportation would be allocated to FCAG for distribution. So you'd have to apply to FCAG in that
Right.
case.
That's what I was just
Yeah.
trying.
Right. Yeah, that's the mechanism to do that.
Same with the ambulance.
The ambulance at this point, the way it's stated in the MOU, would be administered by the county. So in that case, likely the application would have to go to the county for those funds.
Yeah, we've not got no love from the county for our ambulance, that's for sure.
Or a medical clinic.
But. But what is the dollar amount for ambulance? Are we
10,000,
10,000? That's what we're taking.
which would
Yeah, ambulance service, yeah, so 10,257.
That's correct, per annum. And your honor, that's based off of fiscal year 23
Right.
tax
right,
collections. And we've seen it go up each
Yes.
year. But that's based on that year. Correct.
not that I have a voice in this, but my only issue is. We have no problems passing half cent tax, but you know, we have all the other special districts, things we can do to properly fund these programs. And it seems like we're using a hodgepodge method to do things that have other mechanisms for funding that shouldn't be used and allocated, that we fought for years with the state and got passed. I'm
You're
just,
referring to a district, special district
yes, I
or?
am. I'm just.
Yeah.
Troubles, but I don't have a say in this, so I just speaking out loud.
Yeah, that was, the discussion at FCAG and the mayor can elaborate was, okay, with the funds coming through on the 70% used for multiple projects and they're having different rules and regulations are putting them there. And I think we're continuously improving that process. Then it was brought up on the ambulance service, which is an important thing. They wanted to say, okay, can we put this into this MOU?
The ambulance service, I have questions with the county on ambulance service. That's one of the reasons I'm running for county commissioner. But that's, they're not giving us any love at all. Du Bois, they're really remote. They get a little bit of service up there. But, ambulance service, the county, definitely needs it. I don't know when the commissioners, if they would actually move on and let every municipality, they say right now, they have no obligation to provide ambulance service to us.
It's not an essential service.
It's not an essential service. We're hoping legislature was gonna change that.
Shoshoni had an ambulance up through about the 90s, beginning of the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
That was all,
It was beyond them, because I
Okay.
moved over there and they were still in there.
I quit just in 90. Basically, it was all volunteer. The county ran it. We had an ambulance barn and the county supplied it. And they supplied all the equipment and everything else. And one of the problems we had was just not enough people to run it. I mean, you're on call 24 hours a day and,
Right.
but We have an ambulance now, but that's the problem. County is dragging our feet.
But we gotta be certified by the state for one.
Yeah, the state EMS change, it's a mess.
Okay,
It's just a mess.
so I know we did a lot of things we were supposed to do and things, but anyway.
Yeah, they got all our applications, everything, but their certification process, all the, they gotta quit, change, move offices, and it's all new people that came in there, so there's been a lot of turnover at the state level, so. I checked into that last week, so, well, that's all we're waiting on, is just the operation or the certification to operate.
You know, it's, but I don't know. If we lose our ambulance service, that would impede economic development for the whole county. I mean, we all would want to move here if we can't get an ambulance.
Difficult to
And,
recruit
you know,
businesses,
that's
yes.
a bad thing, and then also. Ambulance is something that's needed. It fact,ly might be more popular than air transportation, but I don't know if it should be, because what will we do? We lose our air service. That would be a huge detriment to Fremont County. And
But is the second flight a day worth that much?
oh, how much is the second flight a day?
Versus one?
Yeah, how much is that?
Yeah, so again, like I said, there's multiple variables in there. I'd love to just be able to tell you it's twice as much, right? And as far as the cost, the block hours are the same. So from Sky West, it would be. So that's this portion is 2x. It's what happens on the revenue side, right?
Right.
So if the occupancy, or the load factor, if we're at 100%, then it goes up like this and we have minimal on the MRG. If that second flight comes in and we're at a 30, 40, 50% load factor, then our revenue drops and the MRG actually increases. And we can go through the math in detail, be willing to do that with you, a time that works for you.
Presently now, we're running one. We're running one flight with pretty good occupancy.
Yeah. The load factor on the flights in the morning are 70%-ish. The afternoon flight, which we have 2 days a week, it used to be Thursday, Saturday. Now it's Sunday, Monday. That's running between 50 and 60%. And part of that problem is that people are saying, and probably like you're thinking right now, well, okay, is it Thursday and Saturday? Is it Monday, Wednesday? Is it Sunday, Monday?
Right.
When is it?
That's-
And when we can say it's every day of the week, 7 days a week, you can book either flight, then those enplanements should go up. So we'll start pushing that, marketing that as much as we can when that happens.
I've had a friend travel recently and he said both going and coming, the plane was packed.
Mhm.
That was.
Yeah, I've been on flights,
his
yeah,
Trip.
48 of the 50 seats. Yeah.
That was, he just commented to me that here a few weeks ago. I said, boy.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I'd like to hand out, this is survey. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but we commissioned with the University of Wyoming Center of Business and Economic Analysis that said, okay, what has the sales tax done for us as Fremont County citizens, right? Have we seen any return on it? Is it just a waste of money? What is it? And so up here, they took all the projects and they didn't get it from us as a pack. They went around to all the recipients. So we gave the names. We said, all right, how many jobs have you created? How much cash have you brought into your business? And they responded, provided that information to the university. They did the analysis, and then I'll just pass this around so y'all. And then we'll go through that, but on the top section is what's been distributed already, and it shows the number of jobs, money coming in, et cetera. And that's just from April of 21 through September 23. And that is for every dollar we distributed through that sales tax. Again, we send the sales tax money down to the state. Unlike the first 4% where we get 37% back, we get 99 cents on the dollar back. So all those monies come back to us. We deployed them and we had $3.91 of economic impact. Once all of the monies are distributed for the projects that we have in the queue right now, that's going to go up to $7.30. And then the bottom section here is what's the impact of passing the sales tax the next time? So up in November, when it comes in the general election, if that's passed, they're forecasting $120 million of economic impact to Fremont County as a whole. Over 1,000 jobs created, et cetera. You can read the rest. But it's a good survey. The economic impact was done. If you'd like a copy of that, I only have one copy, but here's an executive summary and I can send you the link. You can also go to Forward Fremont County, which is forwardfremontcounty.org is the website, has all that information. So just wanted to give you that as well. Is Tim online? Maybe he wanted to add something on the ground
One of the
transportation.
reasons I think with looking at the ambulance, that this is a sales tax that's already, we're paying it. Already we're paying it. And if we went to a special district or something, there was a special district, that would be an additional tax on the citizens. And this may be a good way, be for also to help economic development without putting any more tax burden on our citizens
Mhm.
by spending the money to help to maintain ambulance service, so. But,
Yeah, it's somewhat of,
but there again, that's why we thought it was a good idea, but bring it and kick it
Mhm.
around, see how it develops.
and Your Honor, it's somewhat of a discretionary tax, right?
Yes.
You know, because of the 100% that's collected, I ran through the analysis from the Department of Revenue, and we as citizens only pay 73 cents of that. The rest is paid for by businesses on what they purchase, services, the products, et cetera. And then the other part of it is of that 70 cents, 73 cents, paid by tourists as well, right? As they come through, they pay the sales tax, so we're not even paying that full amount.
And I
So it's
personally
better
believe
than
the
property
sales tax is the most fair tax
versus property tax.
versus
Agreed.
property tax
Mhm.
increases.
Mr. Mayor, I'm free to elaborate on the ground transportation if you would allow.
We would love that, Tim.
Sure. So as far as
Please introduce yourself to the.
yeah,
public.
so Tim Nichols, Fremont County Association of Governments, also the director of Wind River Transportation Authority. Pretty new to the role. We just completed our kind of analysis and our master plan moving forward for Wind River Transportation Authority with the primary focus of how do we make it more impactful for the citizens within Fremont County. In kind of during this discussion with the additional allotment, allows for an additional 305,000 roughly for ground transportation. Now, what we do with that is within the state and federal grants that are allocated to ground or to public transportation, we are able to move that forward and multiply it. And so with those additional funds, we're directly able to provide, or should be, and this would be a more in-depth conversation with citizens, town councils of Shoshoni and Du Bois. But to make sure that your needs are being met, however, it would directly affect service out to Shoshoni and Du Bois, both kind of interlinking the system in its entirety and providing access. So it's also, it's twofold. You gain access, but also the effect that ground transportation or public transportation has on economic development as a community overall. Also, on a national scale, for every dollar invested in public transportation, you expand that by 5 times, so about 500% return in the national GDP. Applying that within a rural setting oftentimes renders even greater multipliers. So the additional allotment to ground transportation, just in summary, and how it would affect the citizens of Shoshoni, specifically, is it would provide access directly to the entirety of Fremont County. So we're looking for workforce expansion, right? So providing access to additional workforce for Shoshoni businesses, as well as the other side of that, providing Shoshoni residents access to workforce who otherwise might not have transportation to it. So the kind of the effects that has on the community are greatly felt throughout. So I'd be more than happy to elaborate on any ground transportation questions you might have.
You're proposing, how many trips to Shoshone a day, Tim?
So my proof of concept that I sent over to Du Bois Town Council included two trips per day, mainly focused around business hours to kind of facilitate that workforce transportation. However, that is a major part of conversation that I would like to have should the pass or should the tax pass and this MOU be adopted. Really tailoring it to the community needs of what Shoshone would need, what their residents feel, right? You never want to make or implement routes based on just my ideas alone. You want to have community buy-in. So it'd be a very in-depth conversation as to what would most benefit the town of Shoshone and what would most benefit the town of Du Bois as well. So to answer your question directly, the proof of concept I sent over included 2 trips per day, and that was 5 days a week.
What would, the proposed charge, you're envisioning right now, what would the proposed charge be for a trip a round trip from Shoshone to Riverton if someone?
So thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so that's a great point as well. So with public transportation implemented in a structure like WRTA's is, it should be primarily fixed route driven, which at that point your fares are a fixed fare, right? So currently the fare is $2 per trip, right? So you're looking at a $2 fare is met, and then the trip occurs, and then the reverse of that, $2 to the trip back. Now, our monthly fares are currently structured at $40 per month. So that's unlimited amount of trips within the month. We're also soon to introduce a digital fare collection system, which allows kind of an ease of use for the users themselves, so they are able to download their bus pass on their phone. So it makes things a little bit easier that way as well.
In the plans is upgrading our software and make it a lot easier to the people that use computers be able to get online and look at schedules and bus routes, and they're also proposing more bus routes within inner city Riverton.
Yep.
Correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So, and I would love to present the newly approved master plan for WRTA to Shoshone in a future council meeting. But it went into very in detailed depth of those new proposed route structures. So there was 4 additional routes proposed, which would provide intercity transportation within the city limits of Riverton. It also included direct express commuter line between Riverton and Lander to help kind of reduce the dependency on traffic, or I guess reduce the traffic between those 2 municipalities, which is heavily traveled on a daily basis. Upward of 6,800 vehicles travel between those 2 municipalities every day. It also recommended the Blue Line, which was specifically Du Bois and Shoshone. And then some demand response advancements as well, which currently rolling out would be a safe ride program, which is late night and weekend within Riverton and Lander city limits, but potentially expanding on that in future as funding increases.
The last FCAG meeting, which we had held here in Shoshone, Tim presented that to the FCAG board. Pretty impressive. Tim came to us with a transit background, which we haven't had in the past, but he was involved in University of Wyoming's transit authority down there, which is the busiest. We're very busy down there, and a lot going on. But anyway, he comes with a transit background and has got a lot of them got ideas on how to make what we have in Fremont County a lot better than what we have now. A lot more use for the public, and this is funded partially by the state.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Yeah. So since, and not to go into too much detail and bore everybody with transit details, but so since our population is under 50,000, we are a subrecipient of the state FTA grant. Now for municipalities like Casper and Cheyenne, those are the only two that are able to apply directly to the FTA for their funding. However, just to to kind of elaborate on my background, I ran the University of Wyoming transit system, which was the second largest transit agency in the state of Wyoming. Only second to Jackson, which we obviously don't recognize as citizens of, but regardless, no, they did a wonderful job, and they have a wonderful model as well. But what I told Mayor Highsmith, as well as members of FCAG, is there is no reason why Fremont County cannot be the second largest, if not even the first. There are some elements that prevent Jackson from expanding further that don't necessarily apply to Fremont County overall. So I would love to see that, and I'd love to see Fremont County gain that level of service.
So there's multiple benefits from this half-cent tax. Like I've said, it's not imposing another tax that the county felt forced to go to a district and tax our real estate. It'd be an additional tax. So this is a tax we're already paying. Is this the final solution? I don't know, but this is a model, I think, that we can work with. But like I said, hard to put a lot of trust in what the county's gonna do or not do. I agree with Bob on that. They haven't showed us much, but
Mayor and council, you know, and then your recourse at that point could go back to FCAG, modify the MOU, right? It'd still be the
Right.
same ballot verbiage, but we could adjust how the funds are allocated at
Sure.
that time if it becomes problematic. At this point, we don't anticipate that, but you know, to your point, it could happen.
does the council wanna mull over all the information you have now till next meeting?
They already have this come up in Du Bois.
As it's going tomorrow.
Yep.
Du Bois is talking about it tomorrow. And to date, we've gone, so Lander just passed it earlier this evening. Riverton has passed it, and so has Hudson at this point. And then Pavilion had first reading, similar to what you guys had last time, first reading, their second reading coming up. Du Bois, same way. And the county, we went to them first time for the first reading, go back for the second reading.
What's council feel? Can I get a motion to table it or a vote?
So the vote is to support the tax. Is that correct?
No,
Yeah.
No,
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 to change the
it's-
MOU.
It's a change, yeah.
just for the
That's right,
MOU.
okay.
That's all
what
it
I wanted
is.
to know what the motion was before.
Yeah, just to support the modified MOU.
Right, correct.
That's what the motion would be. And then the vote for the tax would go in front of the electorate in the general election on November 5th
The the verbiage isn't changing on
on the ballot. That's
the
correct.
ballot. Same verbiage on the ballot.
Tell me how you picked up these new numbers, you know, from for air service up to 33% and ground transportation. Why did you pick those numbers? You know, why didn't something be bigger or smaller?
So I can talk about the air transportation, right? The commercial
Okay,
air.
that's-
So we went through that. The way the CPA, capacity purchase agreement, reads, it's a 10-year agreement. We wanted to have a 10-year contract. They actually only signed up for the first 3 years. Then we got an additional 3 years, and each one of those, they have an inflationary clause, they being SkyWest. Okay. And so we see what that inflationary amount is, and we put it out there to make sure that we could still fund the 2 flights a day. So that's how we came up with that roughly 1.8 million. Now we're going to do all we can to get the higher load factor, and we want to keep the fares as reasonable as possible. We want them to be the same or less than Casper. So those are the 2 criteria that we're working with. So that's how that number was derived. The ground transportation, Tim can elaborate on that with the new routes, but had gone through a similar financial analysis. And then regarding the ambulance, that was after talking to the commissioners, and they're, what are our options here? Well, they said, we can afford part of it through our general fund. We would really need some help if there's any way we can do that. And we said, how much would you need? And that's how they came up with that roughly 800,000 number.
The air transportation, those are, actual numbers, and we're just, they calculated, worked on up, and has basis.
That's right. And with the projections,
And with
of
the
what we thought they would
projections,
be. That's correct.
Helicopter service, does that fall under ambulance? Or
No.
is it's
That's a separate animal, is
so
my
it's not
understanding.
air- it's not
Yes.
with the airport, and it's not with the ambulance, it's
Right. It's a separate third party that's providing that service. Yep. And, we'd love to see the hospital, if we get a new hospital, or if Sage West changes their mind and would like to take that on, perhaps that's the best solution right there. But that's not tomorrow. It's going to be down the road a ways, and we'll work on that as well. Good question.
But the taxes, as we brought up, is part of our ambulance service will be paid by tourists. And everybody that spends money in Fremont County will be contributing instead of just the landowners.
That's correct. Everything that's subject to sales tax, sales and
Yeah,
use
sales
tax. That's correct.
And it's not adding another tax.
It is not. No, this one's already in effect.
That, yeah. So. Does direct some of our economic development money that we had, that we won't have. But
So what assurances do we have if we pass that and the tax passes that we will get ground service? Or are you gonna say, well, didn't really work out, sorry.
Well,
like,
yeah, Tim's got it.
Are you talking ground transportation, so bus service?
Right, yeah, that's the selling point on that part. And so what assurances do we have that if it all passes, we'll have that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I hate to say, it just, so in this master plan, right, that was approved by FCAG, and I'll lean on that a little bit. It includes the blue line and red line being the first priorities, right, which provide service to Du Bois, Shoshoni, and then the Riverton inner city to kind of help facilitate that movement of people within it. So with that master plan in effect, it kind of locks us into that commitment. And those are our first priorities right out of the gate. So, and I mean, the goal of any public transit provider is to make sure they're making the biggest impact possible. And you just can't provide the largest impact without making sure that your commuter lines or those outlying municipalities have access to all of those amenities. So it feeds in on multiple factors, but I'd lean on that master plan as being kind of that assurance, as it is an approved master plan, and it includes those as the first priorities to be rolled out.
Tim, could you discuss timeline a little bit?
Sure.
Where timeline?
Yeah, so that would be FY26, just to give some clarification, and just to allow this tax and modified MOU to take hold, and we don't end up running on a severe deficit. So this would be in the fiscal year 26. We're about to enter into fiscal year 25. The election would be in November, and so it would give us roughly a few months to kind of assess our rollout strategy and how that would work, and then effective July 1st of that new year would be when these new routes would come online.
We also have to buy maybe an additional bus or two.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. So we're currently in the process of procuring 4 additional buses. And during this time in FY25, we will be also procuring 3 additional smaller buses. So that'll kind of align right in that timeline of when these blue and red lines would come in. So we would have significant resources procured by that time.
So the plan is to purchase that equipment in anticipating furnishing these routes, correct?
That is correct. And I might add that those grant agreements are already in place, and it's just a matter of scheduling their fulfillment.
You know, I don't. Like I said, there's no planet's perfect, and there's things that, I mean, not like as well, but the overall picture. I think this enhances the chance of the half-cent tax passing countywide. I think the ambulance service is very popular amongst the people in the county that I've talked to. And the concern that we don't know what our county commissioners are gonna do if they don't get some help subsidizing, because they have, you know, they're talking to discontinue what they can do, because they say they can't afford to keep pulling this out of their general fund. You know, adding some mill levies on top would be one of the things they talked about, but I really don't like that idea either. So what are we gonna do with or without? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, Your Honor, council members, the other options that the county talked about was either they would do the mill levy, like you had mentioned, on the property tax, or they would propose a special purpose tax to support the ambulance in addition. So then you'd have the 1% for the roads that's on the ballot for the general election. Then you'd have the half cent, and then you'd have a special purpose tax as well. And you know, our fear is the more taxes you get on there, the probability of passing them gets reduced.
Probability of passing any of them gets reduced.
Exactly.
And if we lose the half cent,
That's right.
we lose the airport, airport. Or
Commercial air
Yep,
service.
commercial air service. That's correct.
We would lose that. And that would be, would not be very good for Fremont County. I know when we were looking at this originally, I believe it was the Gallup, New Mexico had lost theirs, and their economics just went,
Yeah, it creates real problems from an
Yes.
economic standpoint. The university estimated that to be several million per annum just for the commercial air service. For the airport itself, if that were to go away as things diminish over time, annual impact is $21 million to the community. That's flying parts in, you know, businesses getting people in and out, physicians coming in to service the hospitals and so forth. It's a pretty significant impact. So, and that's the main reason I'm standing in front of you today, is that I don't want to see us lose that as a community. I think that'll be detrimental.
No, for what it's worth, what I said earlier is just about the ambulance thing. I think this tax is a very worthwhile thing. County, well, obviously we don't have a lot of money to work with here in Shoshone to begin with, because of our population. So, you know, but $30,000 for us is a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. And what we can do with that, you know, has a big impact for us locally, but in the grand scheme of Fremont County, I think that the bang for the buck on this tax is more than worthwhile. The ambulance is just an issue I have.
no,
Not just on the.
Oh, yeah.
Not the tax. So I wanted to separate those two. The tax is what it does. I think is very beneficial.
Right.
And I
Thanks,
totally get
Chief.
for the ambulance
Appreciate it.
as well, but I don't want to leave you with that impression that I was talking against that.
The tax.
I warned
Thank
Kevin
you.
that he wasn't probably gonna get a lot of love on the ambulance, because the way the county has treated us over the ambulance. But
Yeah, and the way I look at that is, you know, if it turns out to be a bad deal as we go forward, it's to the Fremont County Association of Governments that govern this document, right? The ballot verbiage, again, isn't going to change. We're just back to addressing the 70% discretionary allocation. And then we'd have the ability to go in there and, I mean, if Shoshoni proposed something, we want to do this and this, FCAG agrees, then we go stand in front of each of the councils and say, hey, you know, we continue to improve this. Here's another step forward. This is what we'd like to do. So that's an option if things go this way. Which I hope they don't.
Verbiage is the same on
Mhm.
on the ballot, just the MOU between stuff.
So the MOU could be modified in between before the tax is up again.
Yes.
If the verbiage don't change, the intent don't change, you're not changing the tax, so you could change the distribution in 2025 or 2026 or whatever.
Yeah, so
You could change the MOU, I mean, modify it slightly.
that's correct. You could,
As long
you
as
could
it
change,
stays
modify.
within the guidelines.
Right.
Yeah, it
It's
still
gotta
meets
stay
the
within
letter of the law,
guidelines.
Understood.
and all the governing bodies agree, right?
All of a sudden, we get usage of the airport skyrockets, and we get our shooting complex, and
We need a
well,
flight
most
to Salt
people
Lake.
don't Fly
Yeah.
with
and
a
most people
$30,000
don't,
gun.
maybe they'll send their kids, I don't, yeah.
My biggest thing was just with the ambulance, that once we get ours up and running, $10,000 would, for us and the ambulance capacity.
Could help a lot.
For training and being able to outfit and supply for our community, that would be a huge difference than strictly coming out of general fund to be able to fund this and get things up operational running. And it would kind of operate on its own for the most part. Having access to that money, if when that time comes, being able to use that for ambulance, but here in Shoshone, I just feel that we give that to the county, we're getting 50-minute service when we're providing our citizens here with an ambulance the town's paying for. So in that, how do I explain that to the citizens that you're paying a tax that we're using for this ambulance, you're getting service with, but you're paying this tax, so that you don't get service.
Yeah,
And
and
so when that time comes, that was my question.
mhm. And that's a good question. And I think for me, it's analogous to what Du Bois did with the ground transportation, right? That's how I look at. And FCAG was willing to amend that to make that work for Du Bois.
Right.
That was my own point.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you.
Again, I'll ask for a motion.
I move we approve the MOU as presented.
Been moved by Councilman Stetler to approve the MOU agreement as presented. And I have a second. Second by Councilman Zan. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose the same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you both, Tim and
Yep.
Kevin.
Thank you.
New business. Water tank, improvement, and road access. Engineer selection, we have. We received two statement of qualifications. One from Gorson Associates and the other from Engineering Associates. Would you like to try to set up an interview?
Yeah, but. White. Which two are you saying? I don't have that one.
Which one?
I guess, maybe I did.
This one?
Sorry, so on the storage tank and access, we only have two. We have one from, they're on the right-hand side. I try to separate them, make it easy for you.
Oh, I piled them up. See.
Okay, well, look for the one that says Gores, water tank, storage tank and access, and the second one is gonna be from EAS. You're gonna have to split that one because they only provided 3 copies. The mayor has one, he has his own personal copy apparently. And EAS is the second one that each side will have to share one for EAS on these statement of qualifications. The only thing I'm gonna leave with on this before we get into that discussion is this project is extremely time sensitive. So we have to be under contract with a contractor for this, and the fund's obligated by September 30th.
Right.
If it goes beyond that, we lose the funding, we're done. So that is the one critique there. And I'm not trying to bias anyone on that, but I think that goes for with the 2 applications. Or it's two statement of qualifications, sorry, for this project. Because of that, and only because of that, I just want to point out with Gores, with their they have a heads up on what's going on there and that startup process. I'm not sure if EAS had the timeliness to get it done. I don't know. That's the only thing to take into consideration as far as the two things being, everything being equal is the timeliness of it.
And that I think the question has to be asked of the engineers first and foremost, because it is a high schedule and we gotta have it committed.
So we need to have a interview with both. Is this based upon the most qualified that we rate? Or
Yeah.
how? So we need to set a date for that.
Yes,
Um,
and it needs to be done fast.
it needs to be done yesterday.
I'm busy yesterday.
So we need to set up something ASAP.
Do we need it with both, or do we just need it?
We needed,
We've never worked with this group, correct?
They provide some surveying.
Well, the surveying, sorry, they did the surveying on
They
the
provide surveying
sewer
for us.
aspect for.
They have engineering and surveying.
So we know that Gord is able to fulfill the timeline as of now. So interviewing them might not be as necessary as.
I think we have to interview both, just to be told,
Yeah.
we're not being biased.
I think I can call both and ask them, give them our timeline. And see if they have any problem committing to that timeline. If they do, then we don't one of them backs up, we don't need to interview.
Yeah, we only have the two, so.
We only have two, so reach out to both of them and see if they have. What the timeline is, and if we can write a contract just like we did when we did the medical clinic, it wasn't done on time, Brink Construction wouldn't get paid. It's. Who knows what, I don't know what,
But basically.
Jim Gores should be easy for them to step in, but all of a sudden maybe he got awarded a big contract. And he can't do it, I don't know till I ask.
So that's, so if he asks, then we'd have a special meeting or set up an interview after.
Any chance could we do it, if we can arrange it, could we do it Friday? Early evening,
Does it have to be all
I mean
this?
Friday.
No, it can just be a committee, it can be council members and town officials or a combination or whatever, how you wanna do it.
Yeah, we could do that if,
I think we had the mayor, me, Mike.
Mike should be involved. At least one other council,
Doesn't have to be all council members on it.
I'll be available at any
Okay.
time this week.
but I'm thinking Friday. Because I'm tied up all week in Riverton till Friday, I get off. Maybe 2 o'clock Friday. I'm at that economic. Summit in Riverton. All week.
Yeah, as long as, I think Gores will be fine, as long as the EAS can either appear virtually or in person, with some kind of presentation.
Let's set up for Friday. I'll be there. Give me a note. What time.
Okay, we'll have Chris or someone, Kim. Set up the time. Something I'll call, or I'll call them both tomorrow morning. And see what their schedule looks like, see if they can get it done in a timely manner.
If you did it in the evening, you could have a quorum and have a vote and be done.
Yeah, we can do that if we can do that.
You said you could make it,
I
you
can
could
make
make it, I could make it.
I will.
Okay.
Tenant, I guess depending on what time it is, Fridays, no.
What works, 6 o'clock? Does
I
that
could
work
be here at
best, 6 or
6
later,
on
right?
Friday. Yeah,
So a special meeting, tentative, you can schedule.
Yep, we can set up a meeting, we can do
might as
our
well do the
interview
sewer lagoon as well,
and,
do it all.
Good, yeah.
yep. Glad I thought of that. I'm always thinking on my.
I mean,
when I'm
if we're
sitting
having
on
a
this
meeting
chair
to
next to
select
you.
from the qualifications, let's do it all and be done.
Yeah. We'll try to set that up.
Oh, we have a meeting every night this week, great.
Yeah. So. 6 o'clock work for everybody? 6 o'clock Friday then?
So I will be based on that, I will be in. To be determined.
Okay,
from my end.
Do you have a heartburn if we do that at 6 on Friday?
No, you guys do, like I said, do your thing, like I said. Trash routes just run long on Fridays, and so it. We're
Okay.
back to back.
okay, we'll call for a special meeting. Yeah,
As long as we get everything coordinated with.
if we can get everything coordinated with it, so we'll figure that out tomorrow, but that's what we're gonna try to set.
I understand the big deal's the water tank, I guess.
It's just.
Because of the
biggest
time
question is the
sensitive.
timeliness of it. It's not
If we could
so-
at least get that, have the meeting, but preferably have it all,
With this,
just so it's fewer meetings, less expense to the town.
and. Very. Very good. We got a plan forward.
So we covered A and B on business.
Think so.
Yes. Now we have C, one of the things that just, a lot of the places you eat at now automatically charge you a tip. And prices of meals keep going up. I think we need to change our employee handbook tipping policy because it's not allowed, covered by city expenses. But I think we should limit the maximum tip at 20%. That's a policy change because it's in our employee handbook.
It's also part of the resolution. Credit card usage.
Mhm.
So, it's about both, not just the handbook.
Well, no, it needs to have a vote. That's why it's in an action item.
No, I was just letting, I was,
Yeah, oh,
we
yeah.
also have a resolution that covers.
Right.
Credit card usage as well as what's in the handbook.
So we would need a resolution. to-
Yeah, actually formally change it. 'Cause it's actually a resolution too. Just like, you know,
Okay, well, if I pay cash, I could turn it in and get reimbursed for it though. If we change the policy book. But what you're saying, we couldn't use the credit card to do it.
I didn't think about that prior to this, it just came to me.
Right,
as we were
right.
Talking, so
You bet.
I just realized that we had passed a credit card policy resolution about 2 years ago.
Okay,
That stipulated a lot of what's in that portion of the whole credit card policy.
okay. So to change the credit card, we would need to,
So we'll just table this.
Yeah.
we'll have a resolution.
Well, I would like to, I guess, talk about it, so I don't put into a resolution and prepare it, so what's some ideas, before we table it.
What do they currently do?
They're not allowed.
No
Zero
tips,
tip?
no
Zero
alcohol.
tips.
So you're saying it's
tips.
the employer's job to pay their employees? That makes sense to me.
No, if they go out to eat on a business trip.
Well, that's what I mean. The employees are responsible to pay their employees, and the rest of the world gets to pay $25 an hour livable wage, and then.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, trust me, I had this conversation with the clerk and she didn't agree with me, so. I'm on your side, but I can't change the world, so it is what it is.
Me either.
But if you go to a restaurant and they put it automatically on your credit card, then the employee, and we have been,
Then it's not a tip, it's a bill.
it's like,
It's a surcharge.
it's a surcharge. Typically, I tip, but I always tip cash, never on city, and I never get reimbursed. But if I get good service, if I don't get good service, I don't give a tip, but that's sort of, that's why. Talking to one of the waitresses, I said, said she makes, I said, well, geez, years ago, my daughter's, my wife, $2.50 an hour, and she said, well, that's what she makes now. But they get out of, restaurant, they get out of that minimum wage stuff, because they document enough money, they're making enough on tips.
Right.
But that's the,
I just wanted some guidance, what to put in the resolution, so we're not.
So you want a max?
Just,
that's what
yeah,
I'm saying, 20% is.
whatever, so at least I know what the consensus kind of is, officially what to put in the resolution, so we're not typing it, then changing it, and back and forth, basically. That's the only thing we'd be changing effectively in the resolution as well as
The tips up to 20% would be allowed. Maximum 20%.
I guess I'm old, cause that seems like a lot.
Sounds like it.
20% is relatively standard.
For maybe for people who drive a Corvette.
What? I was arguing. Yes.
I guess that's at 30 miles to gallon. 2002 vintage.
Taco Bell gives me the best service and they don't even ask for a tip.
I
If we were gonna do a tip, I would throw a number 10% would be on. Cause like I said, my personal opinion would be the 20%, I would think high. I spoke with a waitress recently and she told me, yeah, standard is 10%. She was
Where
talking
have
about
you
getting,
ever seen that?
she was talking about $2 bills. She was talking about how older gentlemen like to get $2 bills from the bank and give them to the waitresses, thinking like giving them a treasure or something. And she's
Well,
like,
I know a lot of people
10%.
that do that.
That was just her
Soft
perspective,
tips.
but she told me 10% was standard in her, just her perspective. This was someone in Riverton recently.
I mean, I guess up to 20% doesn't mean you're getting 20.
No.
It could be a variation below that, depending on the level of service that you got, I guess.
Up with that crap.
Well, and it's hard to judge too. From establishment to establishment, what they have their auto amount set at. So,
Says on here, 10% is considered a bad tip.
So instead of that, I just use 0 because 10% is not good enough for anybody. 0 is just as good. And here's my tip. We're always hiring at our company. Come work.
No. I typically give 20%, sometimes as little as 15, sometimes nothing if I got I got bad service. And I got, pretty good service up.
Good Lord only asked for 10%, whether you like it or not.
Well, yeah, but he wants 10% of everything. Pre-tax.
Yeah.
And there depends where you interpret that into the Bible.
I don't know, I've given 100% tip on $100 bill almost, and the waitress was crying, she came back to me, didn't think I was serious, thought I made a mistake. You know, the girl, we were traveling to Florida,
Yep.
Jeff and I doing a transport. And we left the whole tip the amount of the whole meal. And so it does. Some people don't make a lot of money as waitresses, some do. But tipping is culture that we exist in, so it is what it is. Agree or disagree.
So I move we have a tipping policy change to 20% max.
Do the resolution for next meeting.
Do we really need to make a motion or just a consensus? That's what we
I
wanted.
just want a guidance.
That's what I'm thinking.
I guess just guidance at this point, because we're gonna have to vote on the whole thing.
Right.
Anyway.
That's my thoughts.
I just didn't wanna type something in there, then spend 30 minutes going back and forth.
And retyping, but I think that's a max, and if you want to tip more than that, you can pay out of your own pocket. We will allow a 10% tip. If that's what you want. Or 0, you're not forced to tip.
Right.
But if if it's very easy for an employee to go out and spend $20 on a meal. And so that's, $4, out of it.
Well, I think it's what Chris said. We've created this culture of. It is, like I said, some people flow with the culture and some people kick against the pricks. And I've found just because someone puts in front of me and says, here's a suggestion, give us $50, $10. And I say, I literally walk to your establishment and.
I like that. Would you like to round up for? No, I would like to round down.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I asked the company in town, they said, would you like to donate blah, blah, to this, whatever? And I grabbed a candy bar. I said, can I have this? And she stared at me and I said, wouldn't you like to donate this to me? I said, never mind, man, we'll just,
Let's get donations for today.
I said, oh, it's fair, you're asking me, I'm asking you. You don't want to give to me, I don't want to give to you.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife's been working me on that for many years, so I happy wife's happy life type thing. And I had daughters work for wage. In fact, my wife worked as a waitress at one time, so. Yeah. Any event, let's move on. Department head report, police.
Do we get a second on that?
We don't.
Oh, we're no vote, we're not
Oh,
voting.
we're not.
We,
Okay.
we gave
The guidance.
we gave guidance for the resolution.
This is a meeting that we're gonna rehash in the next meeting. Same agenda. Kidding, I'm sorry, a little bit of levity.
Would you like to give a police report?
I would absolutely like to. We've been helping Riverton when we can here and there. Had a lot of support in Riverton. Oddly enough, whenever we've gone places, they were very appreciative of us being there from Shoshoni. Patrolling their streets, responding to their calls and helping with their issues. We did have a total of 59 calls for service last month. We also had 33 calls that we took as agencies. We code them as agencies assist, but they're variation of calls in Riverton. So we responded to 33 calls for agencies in Riverton, which is double or months worth here in Shoshone. We did that in 2 weeks, part-time here and there. Yeah, citizens of Riverton have been really great support and very happy that we're there. That's been going really well. It also works. It keeps us kind of fresh on our toes with some of the stuff we don't deal with very often. So it is kind of nice to, it's like any other perishable thing. You know, you can be trained for this and then you do it once a year. You're not as
Crisp.
exactly. So in a way, it's kind of been reinvigorating for a lot of the guys to be doing certain things more frequently, and it comes back, and so they're more apt to get back into that mindset of how to handle certain calls that we don't have very often here. But we're starting to see some of the same calls in Shoshone and we respond to the river at the same time. Farther with the weather, we've had 6 different calls for intoxicated subjects around Shoshone this last month. With the weather, liquor store being open a lot more frequently at easy access, you know, people walking back and forth to the liquor store. That's a lot of it, stumbling in the road, things of that nature. We usually just give them a ride home here in Shoshone, but they're not homeless, they're just drunk. But we gotta have a rise in that. We've had a couple of domestics, more arguments and things of that nature. Again, I think just with the time changing in the spring and the better weather, we're getting more and more people out and about. So we will be reorientating our Shoshone schedule a little bit to better orientate our patrols in Shoshone to match the change of the time and to meet the demands of Shoshone. Any help we do in Riverton doesn't come at the expense of Shoshone. It's in addition to when we can. While the officers will go over there on their days off or when they get off shift here, they'll go work there for 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever. Riverton is reimbursing us $50 an hour, so we're, I guess you could say, making a little bit of money back on the whole deal, but the officers get a little more pay out of it too. So but Riverton's paying for it, so it's been a good overall aspect. The SRO, I've kind of gone back and forth on how much I want to say on this and how much I want to brief the council in an open setting, but I believe in transparency and I believe in being open. And I'm very bothered by how this has gone. So I attended a school board meeting here last month, and informed the school board that, for one, it wasn't these exact words, but the school board does not have the authority to hire a peace officer employed by the town of Shoshone or any other government agency in the state for an SRO. They lack that authority. They don't have it. And I had one board member that made the comment that, well, if you control the hiring process, how do we get to screen the people we want?
You don't.
That struck me as a little bit off. And then I thought more about this. So the way this whole process began was one-sided communication. I reach out, don't hear back. I reach out, don't hear back. I reach out, don't hear back. So I'm pestering. I go in person and have a conversation. And then 2 days later, I see this thing called an RFP, which we all know is a request for proposal. Have you ever heard of an RFP to hire a police officer? Unless we're in private security, I don't think so. I firmly believe, and I want this to be duly on the record, I firmly believe that they are circumventing the law of hiring a public position that's taxpayer funded as well as federally funded, in our case, through COPS grant. And they are circumventing the law and advertising to tailor make that for a person that they specifically want. And they want me to rubber stamp it, and I will not do it. I went to their school board. I informed their school board of exactly that. And I said, what you're voting on is to fund an SRO. That you're not voting on a person, you're voting on a program to fund it. We will then advertise, the town, advertise as according to law, receive applications for, do the proper vetting process, which is the background checks as required by the state of Wyoming state statute for post. All peace officers have to go through a thorough background check, required. It's also required federally through the DOJ, anything that has to do with federal funding. Then once they have completed that process, then we go into interview phase. Where they're then interviewed, and I made it clear to the school. I'm not going to hire someone that once here's all the people that are suitable for the job. We'll interview them, and they can, at that point, they can have final say so on, because they're already qualified. I've already signed off on them, they're good to go. If they want this person, they think they're the best fit in the school, they can have that person. I'm not dictating that they can't choose the specific person for their school. But apparently they want 100% control. They want that person to report to the superintendent. And I will not have a town employee reporting to the superintendent for discipline, possible termination, anything else. And neither will the county. It'd be a deputy sheriff. It doesn't matter what entity it is. They're not special. And the fact that I called and had that conversation, and then, well, I'll call you back, never call back. The disrespect and the animosity, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this is wrong. It's just wrong. And I want it to be known that if we don't end up with an SRO in that school, and they want to put the safety of those children in the hands of their politics and their BS, that's on them. But we will go patrol that town or that school. We will walk the hallways of that school in the absence of an SRO. We will do our due diligence to protect as best of our ability. But I cannot go against what the law says. It's in my name of what I work for, law enforcement.
They want to hire a security guard.
That's right.
That they can do that, but he is not a police officer. He's not associated with any police officer. He can not arrest anybody. He can't respond as a police officer. He can be a hall monitor, glorified hall monitor.
They have to call us to give citations. They have to call us to.
Which means he probably cannot be armed.
Could be or maybe not be. They could be a reserve peace officer with some other agency where they would technically have the ability to be armed in the school. But if I sign off on someone that's armed, then the town is taking that responsibility for that individual's actions.
No.
We have no control, no say so, nothing over that as a security guard. But as an SRO, it is a strictly law enforcement position.
Right.
If the school wants to have total control, they can go form their own police department and then they can have total control. But they're not going to do that. And alls I'm asking is just a little bit of collaboration and cooperation together to make this something good. I don't understand what the acrimony is towards the town, towards me, towards the police department here in Shoshone, or law enforcement in general, other than total absolute dictatorial take ship control.
How much money did we save the school over the last 3 years approximately?
$130,000.
Yeah. We saved the school that much money.
But they want to hire a security guard, that comes out of their budget.
Where's so do they own the Suburban?
Yes,
The MOUs, they supply
Yeah.
the vehicle and whatnot. So yeah, that's.
I was just curious if that was theirs or the town's or what.
No, that's theirs. That's
They-
part of that.
So they just need to call something different, so. So they could, if they were to, whatever they're doing done. It's okay if they say, so, sorry, it's okay to apply for a security guard. Now, if they want to call it something different, if that's your job to say, you guys hired a security guard that is not recognized.
Yeah, there will be there's no agency that's gonna supply the credentials to an officer to enforce the law in their name without control over that person.
Right.
That makes no
Sure.
sense.
So do they, it seems like they should.
I don't understand, I guess, other than it's the kingdom of the school district and they want absolute control and they think for whatever reason, call it ignorance, call it hubris, whatever you want to call it.
we had a big battle 4 years ago when we,
I don't understand it, but I'll be the bad guy in this, but I think that people need to know that this is what's going on.
I think you said it best, if we, the town walks, steps aside, said, if you guys wanna, and just let that be the difference, if you guys want a law enforcement officer. Under this title, it goes through us. If you guys want a security guard, you're more than welcome to hire.
And that's
security
what I
guard.
went to the school
Yes.
board and explained to them. And the school board voted after I explained to them that you're voting for funding an SRO program, not a person. They voted 4-1. And then when the guy that I let them choose backed out. And I told them that too, what the process would be after that, and they voted to pass it. Then I talked to the superintendent who said, well, I have to go back to the school board. And I haven't heard back from him since. Well, I thought the school board already voted to approve the funding. Feel like you guys, the council here, voting that I shall do this, then I just like, I'm not gonna do it.
But is that funding paid to the town?
It's reimbursed to the town. For the position itself.
Well, it's weird little.
That's how the school district, like in Riverton, they have 3 now, they have 2 SROs, so they pay the police department to provide 2 SROs to the school. Then you have Pavilion and Du Bois that provide, they have deputies there. They don't have the local police force. And the sheriff's office provides deputies there, but again, the school district reimburses the county for that. So that's the model of an SRO.
So if
That's
they
the
get,
cooperation.
if they get an applicant. Will that applicant meet the SRO requirements or will it meet the security guard requirements?
depends
seems-
on who he's working for. If he,
Because it seems like that's where it comes down. If they brought you, we really like this guy, and if you look at it and say, great, you got yourself a security guard. He doesn't meet parameters.
And that's where this problem comes, and Marshall, I guess you can attest, what's the state law on applying or on advertising for public positions?
What do you mean?
If I wanna hire a tax funded position, whether it be state, county, municipal, a new clerk, new chief of police. Don't you have to advertise for that for a certain amount of time and have it open? to the
I'd
public?
have to go through. And I think so.
I already know the answer to it,
yeah,
more rhetorical.
It's like the same if they want to hire a janitor or a school teacher. I mean, it's
yeah.
They have to advertise. And what they did with this RFP, they didn't put it on their server for open job positions for one. All they did is put on Facebook as an RFP that had limited access. I had 3 current SROs. I don't want to put anybody in blast. But 4 different people that called me said they were interested in applying for that position. But because they saw the RFP, they were confused. It was very ambiguous. And they were not comfortable leaving their current job to go to that because they had no idea what was going on. That it was not traditional. It wasn't something they expected. The process was weird. I can go on with all the sayings, and so they didn't even apply for it. So they had one person that actually responded to their RFP. I don't believe it was the person they wanted, that they tailor-made it to, but I firmly believe that they're trying to manipulate the hiring process so they can get just the person they want. And that, to me, was basically stated by one of the board members when I was trying to explain the process, the proper process. And I hope it doesn't go that way, but I just want the council to know that wherever you hear, this is what happened, and this is why.
So so going forward, they ought to take that same advertising and publish it in the Ranger.
No, they shouldn't do it at all.
No, it's up to the town. If we're gonna hire an SRO officer.
They're an employee.
Or-
of the town.
Title, if they want to,
If they want to do that, then they can change the title of security officer. They're not hiring an SRO. Yeah, I know it's semantics to some extent, but the term SRO is very specific to what it is.
Mhm.
And it's disingenuous to call a security guard an SRO.
Yeah, they're a security resource officer.
So
SRO.
it's, I just,
Right.
I don't understand,
I don't either.
and I can't explain it better than that. But I'm just disheartened with the unprofessionalism. And you know, if I say I'm gonna call somebody back on an important matter that we're supposed to collaborate on, and then I don't call them back, I think that's pretty disrespectful.
So they do want to fund it or they don't, I
The
guess.
school board said they do, but now I have a superintendent unsure and sending us to go back and,
I
if
thought
they
if
want a
they
specific
wanted to fund
person.
the program, the town, the chief had to
apply. or
advertise, hire an officer, make sure he's certified and trained and supply him
And then.
or her.
And then, you know, of course, the school would be involved with, you know, how that officer operates through the MOU in the school.
Right.
But they don't report to the superintendent. They report to the chief of police or even the sheriff's office. I've talked to the sheriff. His deputies report to him, not to the superintendent.
Right.
That's just how it goes. It's kind of a loaner program that they're funding and paying for.
I guess at the end of the day, it's not gonna. They're gonna hit a wall.
They're gonna do what they, yeah, they're.
I mean, when it comes right down to it, they hire somebody, they said, this is who we hired, and you say, well,
Congratulations.
that's
You're the
right.
security guard.
Congratulations, that's who you guys have chosen. Just like you said, you'll still do your law enforcement activities as far as whatever you have to do at the school. But
Which we're doing now.
what you're going to do, and whether or not that person wants to be on the team. I mean, I think part of it comes down to the actual person says, I'm the new SRO. You can say, call yourself what you want,
Yeah, you have no authority.
but you got no authority. Right, so you can stay over in your little box over in that area, but you don't get to come collaborate, you don't come play with, maybe that's not. the
Well,
thing.
so, you know, I guess theoretically, they could hire somebody and call us whatever they want to, and you know, get some other agency, whether it be that has jurisdiction, which would be the sheriff's office or the state, to give them reserve powers. And then that would be up to the county sheriff to then give him, but it's a weird dynamic, because when you're reserved, you're not just imbued with arrest powers, you're not just as a reserve officer. You have credentials, you're certified, and you have some coverage, but the liability lies.
And they
with the
still have to
agency.
go to the academy?
Oh, yeah, but my point though is just because I have lots of officers that I've worked with over the years that are reserved. But they have no power, they have no legal authority. Other than just being a reserve officer. Now, if you have a reserve officer that suddenly they have to put on their law enforcement hat, well, now who are they working for? Now they're working for the county. So if they hire someone that's a reserve with the county, and then suddenly the school expects him to do law enforcement and the sheriff decides to sign off on that, well, then that's a weird thing, because you're transitioning from being a reserve, now you're putting on your law enforcement hat. It's kind of like, not to pick on Mike, but I'm gonna resign, or I'm gonna step away as a council member, I'm gonna be in the same meeting you're involved in. You can't just switch the hat. You know what I'm talking about. Best example I can give.
Well, it seems like, I think you've made it known, your position, which I think you'll receive the support necessary. Puts the monkey back on them if they. You ultimately get, you say, I'm sorry, I don't support this, and they want to go around, you go to the county, and the county says, Well, I'm sorry, we're not, your own chief won't support it, we're not gonna support it either.
No, they won't. I was saying a hypothetical that what could, but that's never gonna happen because it'd be a full-time deputy sheriff. In this, even in an instance, it would be no different than a. There's no path forward for an SRO in the capacity that they're trying to do. There just isn't.
No,
We guess I'll figure it out.
I guess so. But I wanted the council to know where we're at, why we're here
It
and
makes
how we
sense
got here.
why it's. I kind of figured something would be moving by now, but that makes sense. Why not?
And the ramifications on this, if I don't have consensus from the school district, I will not apply for funding for an SRO through DOJ. I will not submit it in my police department budget for an SRO, and they won't get one. And if they do come up with one, we can always amend our budget. We can take the money in and do that, but they'll be paying 100% of it. We won't be paying a dime.
they won't save that 130,000.
Because I'm not gonna apply for a grant, say I'm gonna do something federally, and then all of a sudden. I have things I have to, I'm required, I have an audit coming up in May. I have things federally that I'm required to do, and report for the SRO as well as every other peace officer we have here.
Right.
And if I can't meet those requirements, I'm not gonna endanger the town and have the federal government come down on us and say, well, you're,
Took federal funding.
yeah, I'm not gonna be that guy. And I'm sorry, but.
No.
Well, I'm not sorry. I'm just not gonna do it.
Is the county sheriff's office in a position to allocate a deputy here like they do to some of the other schools?
They
They're
can't
like
even
9 short right
respond.
now. They can't even staff the count. And
Can't even
just like
staff the
Riverton can't
jails.
staff the Riverton, it's a nationwide thing with law enforcement and this county is definitely. Worse off for pay and other reasons. But even if they did, the school wants to pick a specific SRO. So you'd be asking the sheriff, and I'm just saying this hypothetically, you'd be asking the sheriff exactly this, that the school is gonna tell you who you're gonna hire as a sheriff. You think any sheriff is gonna go off and you're gonna tell me who I'm gonna hire?
No, so to me, it seems like it's a obnoxious situation,
is.
but their alternatives are they can get a security guard. They're not gonna get a sheriff. Deputy to come do like they do the other schools, and they're not gonna have one of your deputies say, yeah, we'll go babysit all the time.
This is
So,
our jurisdiction, not the sheriff's. Yeah, I don't see the sheriff trying to budget.
right, so I mean,
And our
seems like
jurisdiction.
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
was just
come
saying
back.
hypothetically, it doesn't matter which avenue they go down, if the result is the same at the end.
Yep.
My main thing is, I have a serious problem with manipulation of hiring practices. At least not giving people, the interviews. See who applies.
No, chief, you've done an awful lot, try to work with the school district on this and try to work through, we try to provide a good SRO. For, protect their children, we tried to make it economically feasible for them, did whatever we could. To help them do that, and they don't recognize it, but there's only so much we can do, we gotta follow the law, we gotta do what we need to
The
do
problem
to
is,
protect ourselves.
it does, and my biggest thing is every school that's ever had some incident, I promise you, they always believe it'll never happen here until it does. And the school board asked me, well, can't you protect the school? My officers will respond there. We usually have one officer on a shift and the chief is sitting here some, maybe some days, so maybe two, with me included. But you have to take into account some facts here, that when an incident takes place, from the time it takes place, from the first victim, the first incident, the first knowledge of that incident occurring to notification to EMS or first responders is typically 1 to 2 minutes. And then from that, you're gathering information in a chaotic environment that's highly dynamic as a dispatcher before you're relaying information out to the people. Most of the times, parents know before law enforcement knows because the kids are texting their parents or calling their parents. And then that's 2 or 3 minutes that have passed by. Then, depending on small town, by the time they get there, but keep this in mind. In Tennessee, that shooting, there actually happened to be a law enforcement officer that was right there for other reasons when he heard the shots and he responded. Before he even made entry into that building, 7 kids were shot. And he was already there. That's how fast this stuff happens. I'm not saying it's gonna happen here. I'm not saying that, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I just don't understand why we're in a state of, we have one side that wants to cooperate desperately to the point that I'm reaching out constantly trying to get this resolved. And yet here we are talking about the safety of kids, and it's more about who has more control.
The same reason, just like what you stated, I supported and pushed trying to get an SRO officer in Shoshone schools.
And I just don't understand it. And we just had a stabbing in Casper in the mall. 14, 15-year-old kids for no other reason other than I don't even know what the reason was. Read the articles, it's pretty preposterous. So it can happen anywhere. And I just know.
But I'd like to say at our FCAG meeting, Mayor Hancock of Riverton shared his appreciation of the Shoshone PD helping Riverton out. And he said he was really appreciative and he was over helping him out. And he said, tell the chief thanks a lot and tell the officers thanks a lot. They've done a really good job.
Well, yeah, and part of it is the school board. There's some people that their kids don't even go there, so.
Yeah, some of them don't. That's a.
I don't want to take personal
Yeah.
attacks on anybody.
Yeah.
That's not my intention. My
No.
intention is I want the council just to understand where we're at, why we're here, and what I'm trying to do to
Okay.
resolve it.
Thanks.
So sorry for the long report.
Sounds like you've got unanimous support too.
Yes.
Well,
Can you do an RFP?
I wouldn't do an RFP. I'd do a job
I mean, can
application,
you do a job?
a job posting. And I would put that on the newspaper, and the website and Facebook as a job posting, linking it directly to the town position opening. Same thing we did for clerk, same thing we did
Yeah.
for.
So if you do that and you get it and you get whoever you get, do you then take that to you don't have to you go to the school and say, do you guys approve?
No, I would vet the people first, make sure they're qualified, that that they can be law enforcement officers. They'd go through a full thorough background check.
Well, that seems to be the,
Yeah, and then after that, we would set interviews in conjunction with the school. And they would be able to say that I think this person's the best fit. And all things being equal, they're all qualified. I would have no problem with them getting the person they want out of that group. It's just filtering it through us, not through them. But I feel that, as I said to begin with, that they're trying to filter it to a specific person versus letting everybody apply and then filtering it properly.
Chris had already bet them that they would have all the qualifications to be an SRO officer.
so is that the proactive approach? If they don't want to return your phone call, you just go forward and say, because you've already set it up. Now, I guess if you get to that point and say, we got the,
But I don't want to put out an application for a job and have people apply and then endanger their current jobs because they applied here and they know that they want to leave. And then I don't have a position for them because the school's not going to fund it.
Right.
So that's a risk that I don't want to take and put people in that.
because
position.
you don't get to supersede.
They
No.
don't have the funding for it. They have to provide the funding back to us if they're not willing to do
Oh, so
that.
you take the rock star, they say, I'm sorry, we don't want that. You say, okay. But this is who we do want, and then you get to say, I'm sorry, that's not who I want.
Well, basically,
The only way that I would say that, yeah, you want this person, but no, you can't have this person. Would only be if I had a reason to say that this person is not qualified to be a law enforcement officer for X, Y, and Z reasons. And therefore, I don't care if you want him or not.
Can't hire him.
He's a child molester and he ain't working in school.
Right.
I'm gonna, just whatever,
Sure.
that would be the only reasons. And so there's no reason for. The control is still with the school and who's gonna be in there. It's just the process starts and ends with the town. That's it. And they apparently want to be able to have the school.
It doesn't
board
even make
vote on
sense
the
to
person.
me why they would disagree with that. It's in the children's best interest to have a certified officer that's been vetted by law enforcement.
Sure, because because the monkey's always on you guys. If something happens,
it's
to the
going on
officer,
the
it comes
town.
back to the
The
town.
person's gonna be in the courtroom a lot trying to defend that.
Versus if you get your security or whatever it is, it goes right back to this is your employee who.
Basically what Chris is saying, if he vets, he had 5 applicants, 3 of them vetted, they were all good. He would take the 3 of them that were vetted. And then the school would be choosing
Who they want.
who
Who's
they
the best
want.
fit.
They get who they want.
We're just trying to circumvent you
Cause they want 100%.
so that they have control of the officer.
And
Yes, and
we gotta make sure that the officer's properly vetted.
So it's just a mess and
Yep.
I hope we can get it resolved.
Yeah, I do too.
That's where
For the
we're at.
betterment of the children.
Yeah.
Yes. But
That's
but we gotta
I've taken,
gotta follow the rules.
I've taken enough of the time.
You bet. But anyway, any other questions for Chris? None being,
Move we go into an executive session on litigation,
potential litigation,
potential, okay.
potential. Been moved by Councilman Vent, second by Councilman Stettler. We go into executive session for potential litigation.
Yes, you're invited.
On fair say aye.
Hi.
All right.
All the same, motion passed, all affirmative.
We got a sign.
Oh,
I'm trying to get it.
I will wait. Hurry up, Kim.
I know, it's like. What time was it adjourned?
9:01.
9:01,
We're waiting on you.
21:01.
On. That back, it looks like you steal pens.
Yeah,
You got a pile of them.
so,
That's what I think you stealing.
Motion to go back in
it
the
is.
regular session.
So moved.
Moved by Council Stiller, second by Councilwoman Harkey. At what, 9:03 or 4? 9:03. All in favor, say aye. Aye, full thing. Motion passed, all affirmative. Do you have anything, Tammy, you want to add? No? Jake, anything you would like, Councilman, or anything? Councilman Ben, any?
I used to see that First Street by the old library was taken care of, put in some milled asphalt, that's makes that street a whole lot better.
Okay,
Well, and they bladed, what was it?
They've been
4th or
blading some
5th?
other
Yeah.
streets, yeah, I knew, I
Yeah.
noticed that. I'm glad they're
That's
working the
good.
streets, there's moisture in the ground now.
it's a good time to hit it, yep. Mike, anything? Okay, the cleanup. Town cleanup. Spring cleanup. Where's my paperwork on that? You got a date on? I don't see. Did we come up with a day in May? Was it May 6th? I don't remember the calendar. Was it May
Those.
18th?
Yes, yes.
Was it May
Yes.
18th?
Yep.
And what were the hours from 9 to,
Let me look and see what Melissa posted.
was it 8 to 5
Thinking,
on,
no, wanna.
but I believe it was May 18th, wasn't it?
Yes. That I do recall.
That's on a Saturday.
Yep. I think
Okay.
it was 9 to 5.
9 to 5 on Saturday, May 18th. We already discussed the burn days are effective now till June 1st, 9 AM to 5 PM. Shooting complex, we're working on it. We finally got the RFP, so we got at least some direction. And so we're FCAG, we're addressing the issues, that been identified, and we're working on a plan forward. So that's all I have to report. The FCAG meeting went well, and I was also brought up to remind councilmen are always welcome at our FCAG meetings anytime they'd like to attend. So we may also, speaking of FCAG, what would you think of a get together some evening where we invited all the council together? Somewhere, just a thought, you know,
Okay.
kind of get our group together and just sort of,
You're saying,
not a meeting, but
you're saying
just sort of a get,
council and FCAG,
and all the FCAT members, all the council.
how many people is roughly, is it 10 people, 50 people?
Well, we have two of the municipalities have 7. And then the other 4 have 5, so that's 34 and 5 councilmen, that'd be 42 people. Commissioners, if everybody came and wise, I don't know, you'd have a reserve a hall,
So 30 to 40 be
you
a
know,
fair number.
something like that. It was brought up that try to involve the council more if they want, and it wouldn't be an official meeting, we'd be just there at some sort of
Ice cream social.
Have
ice cream
fried
social.
chicken.
Yeah, just, it was brought up, so I thought I'd just bring that up to the council.
Yeah, me a fried chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken and, big fat cheeseburger.
I'm good on the cheeseburger. We do it over the community center here.
We could invite everybody here, sure.
Oh, I mean, as far as that's where we would host it.
If we hosted it, it could be held in Riverton or Du Bois, I don't know. Riverton's more central to everybody. It was just a thought. Just wanted to bring it up. Anyway, food for thought.
Mm.
Anybody have anything else? Kim, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, don't touch my phone.
If we have nothing else,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Councilman Harkey to adjourn. Have a second. Second by Councilman Councilman Stetler. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried, all in the affirmative around 9:10, 9:09, 9:11,
909.
909.
9:09.